I found out you're an MD, you're a martial artist, you're a writer, you're a mom of 6, you're you're everything and everything, which is fantastic.
Well, as a kid, I would read the little author bios at the back, and I would just be, wow, these people have done so much cool stuff. They're like a skydiver, and they're like a Marine, and they're, this and this and this. And then I was like, I think I'm actually close to writing a similar bio. All of us who love LitRPG, we wish we had healing potions, and we wish we could just like use a little grid to build the house kind of thing.
Sure.
And that we could quantify. Like I go to the gym, do I measure my biceps or something? Like, how do I know how much I've progressed? Okay, now I can lift this much weight, and now I can add more and lift this much. I mean, we just love that progression. And so quantifying, gaming, all that goes together. So I found LitRPG when it got started, and I loved it. You get a whole pass for all kinds of stuff.
Oh, trust me, I've got a 22-month-old and then a 1-month-old in the house right now.
Well, so I have 6 kids, and I totally get you. So
wow,
you get a big pass. I will just remind you, and I will not hold anything against you.
Oh, I appreciate it. So let's start off by just getting an introduction from you. Just talk about yourself and then talk about your books if possible, please.
Okay, well, I started writing when I was like in kindergarten. I have a little picture book I illustrated, and I've loved to write my whole life. But then like real life got in the way. So I went to med school, got married, had kids. And I tried writing when I had a bunch of little kids. So kudos to you for writing with small children. And it took me like 10 years to finish my first book. And then as the kids got older, I found a little more free time. And I was like, finally, I want to do this thing. I met my husband in a writing class, but he's like an engineer PhD. I'm the MD. We're opposite sides of the doctor issue, And then I sat down. I said, that's it. I'm going to make a goal. And I decided to write a certain few words every day, a sentence in my book every day. And I finished my 10-year book in like 8 months. And so I really like post-apoc stuff. I like preparing for things. I like the idea of a disaster coming and how would I handle it. So I started writing and dystopia stuff. So I wrote a dystopia series, which didn't do too well, but, taught me how to write. Yeah. I consider it my apprenticeship project. And then I wrote a couple of post-apoc series, one with a small press, which let somebody else do some of the work. But I'm a hardcore DIYer, so I found LitRPG when it got started, and I loved it. So it took all my gaming stuff and my survival stuff and put it all in a nice fantasy package. Yeah. So then I was like, I want to write this. So I made a new pen name for business reasons so Amazon doesn't get our 2 demographics mixed up between the readerships. And that's when I started Shieldwall Academy. So I actually, Robin Weideman has a Misfits series. That was kind of the inspiration for doing an Academy series. I saw a few other Academy series doing well. And, who doesn't have a soft spot for, Harry Potter-esque Academy stuff, so. And now I'm writing the final book in the main arc series. There's a planned follow-up for a couple of plots I couldn't squeeze in at the end and do them justice. And so it's been about 4 years since I started page 1 of the first book, and I released a couple of years since then. So
wow, that's amazing.
I did get my start on Railroad, so that's why 4 years. I didn't actually publish for about 1.5 years. So I started on Railroad Patreon, and my awesome patrons, I don't have a ton, but they basically funded the audiobooks. So without them, I wouldn't have been able to afford the $6-7 grand a pop for my chunky books to be turned into audio. So
wow, is that for all the books, the patrons?
They've almost funded the 4 books.
Wow, so, that's remarkable.
At $6-7 grand a pop, you're looking at 25-ish K, and I think that's about what my Patreon has brought in, just a little less over the last 4 years, 3.5, however many years it's been.
Oh, that's amazing. So there's so many things.
$10 a pop, everybody chips into the pot, and we get audiobooks out of it. So.
Yeah. So just before we get back to the books, I want to make sure that I shed some light on. Do you still do the MD stuff, or are you still a physician by trade at all? Is that stuff that you still do?
No, I joke that I have 2 very expensive initials. So I got into medical school, and then I took 1 semester to just have fun classes, horseback riding, writing to be published, creative writing, painting,
Wow.
golf. So after this rigorous like pre-med, I was like, I'm accepted and I have a year paid for with a scholarship. So let's just have fun. And that's
Yeah.
where I met my husband. We got married and then I did med school. And then I'm like, and I had 2 kids in med school. And I said, I had my kids to be their parent, not to be gone all day long. So my husband makes enough to support us. So then I stayed home, had 4 more kids and,
That's fantastic.
So I'm the advisor for friends and family when they can't understand the gobbledygook. So,
yeah. And
I
then
take
so
my
as you
kids to VR?
transitioned over more to the writing stuff, it seems like you've written quite a few books on the apocalypse dystopia side. How was it, one, writing those and then transitioning over to LitRPG, and then sort of how was it sort of writing those at all? Do you still write some of those other ones as well?
Not right now. I do have a couple. I have one series I really want to write back over there. We'll have to see if it's no, there's no time. Like if only I could write faster, right? If I could write all my ideas as fast as I can read books, I mean, then we'd all have a huge library of books. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm currently in LitRPG, and post-apoc from a business standpoint has started to, I think, either readers have fallen off or supply and demand, has flipped the other direction. Whereas LitRPG, we are still seeing a huge number of people who haven't heard of it, and once they find it, are joining in. So it's continuing to grow. In fact, if you go over to the post-apoc category on Amazon, the apocalyptic LitRPG books are at the top of that. And that readership does not read anything with fantasy or magic in it. It's all like, they want to know how to actually purify water, not get a magic canteen that makes it. So
that's actually, because I fully agree with you. I've seen trying to put those in that category back when you could sort of like assign them yourselves and do a lot more, I want to say, manipulation with the categories than you can now. I think a lot of us did use that category quite a bit. And
I did have a big epiphany or understanding I had no clue of. I thought everybody, we all think everybody's like us. Like when we're kids, everybody's like us. And I read everything. I mean, like outside of horror, I think, and straight up erotica, I pretty much read everything, right?
Wow.
And I thought everybody else did too. No, it turns out that the majority of readers stick in their lane. This is their lane. And they don't, if they like vampires, they don't even go to werewolves, even though it's urban fantasy. There's like no crossovers. Yeah. And so there are some rare readers who will read both my stuff, but they're rare. The bulk do not. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And thus the name change. And that's part of the business stuff you learn. I thought it was going to be this much writing and this much business, and it's more like almost not quite the opposite, but enough that it feels like it.
Oh, trust me, it's fairly close. It definitely it is eye-opening how much marketing and how much work you have to do outside of just the writing piece of it, and often enough it gets in the way of the writing itself. So you mentioned it beforehand that it's hard to find time to actually write. Do you sort of set a schedule for yourself? Like, how does that sort of look for you to sort of make sure you can find that time?
I pretty much get up in the mornings, get my little drinks and protein shake or whatever I'm having, and then I sit down and I do about 40 minutes of business stuff where I get all my numbers of things that have changed. I have a little spreadsheet. I don't know if there's any LitRPG author without a spreadsheet. If they are, shame on them, right? If they don't have one. And then, I reply to comments on Railroad or Patreon. I post my chapters for the week, that kind of stuff. And then I write in probably a good 4 hours worth of writing. So I'm a half timer. I still have kids at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually wrap up around 1, and then that's it for the day. My goal is a chapter a day, which I don't always reach because there's editing and there's planning and there's outlining and there's researching and all these other things that aren't writing. So that's the danger. You're sitting here and you have this wonderful internet out there that just says, ooh, come look at me. Come get sucked into this. So I do find that if I do sprinting, I had a sprint group that kind of fell apart. So now I'm trying to learn how to do the sprint rooms on Discord.
Sure.
So I just I met the guy who runs the Immersive Ink Discord at the recent convention. So
awesome.
He's holding my hand, helping me figure out Discord. So they've got sprints
John,
over there.
or was it Foxy Boxy or John? I There's a couple.
Well, he's Fiddle Soup and he's
Fiddle
Papa
Soup, yeah.
Fid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a couple exchanges over. It was kind of funny because we did a couple exchanges over on Royal Road. He's like, "Oh, my story is doing good. Do you want to do a shout out?" I said, "Sure. I'm always happy to shout out new stories and give everybody a boost."
Yeah.
Turns out he runs Immersive Inc. He's like, "Let me help you out figuring out this Discord thing." And I'm like, "Sweet, perfect."
Yeah. No, they've been really cool. They have a few books that they've submitted for the sale, and they've been very nice. And their Discord is obviously growing exponentially and doing very, very well. So
Yeah.
I know they're celebrating I think they're 3,000 people today or yesterday or something. So
yeah, and their sprint room has people sprinting all the time. So I just go over there and slash a join. And yeah, it's because being an author is a very solitary activity.
Yeah.
And so you feel like you're shouting into the void, and not for 8 months do you find out what anybody thought of what you just wrote today, or a year. And so that's why I really liked Royal Road, Patreon, sprinting with other authors, even just, helping other authors out, or they help me out. It feels more of a community, and I'm not just all by myself here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask about that on the Royal Road side. So are you continuing to put the last book on Royal Road as well and on Patreon? It sounds as though you are. And then how do you like that sort of, you mentioned the community aspect, but the interaction as it relates to like people commenting on your story, people's input on your story, is that something that you sort of relish, or is that something that you sort of have a really hard time managing and dealing with?
I find it entertaining, inspirational, encouraging. Occasionally it's challenging, but I'm kind of the positive person. So if somebody insults me, I figure that's their problem. They just don't understand how brilliant I am, and they should just, be nice.
You're the doctor in the room. Come on. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I've been that way since I was a kid. I just, I didn't realize everybody else, again, wasn't like that. I'm like, why would anybody question themselves? Don't they know they're amazing, So I actually find it kind of challenging because I will get nasty comments, right?
Sure.
Because I don't know, the internet and the anonymity, and I don't know, something about the writing field just makes people feel entitled that, their opinion is the only one you should listen to. And if I don't like your book, nobody should like your book. And I encourage them to go read one of the other millions of books out there. I'm sure they'll find something they can like. But I've had multiple people that I have talked back to in a, just a kind, hey, thanks for the feedback. Even if it's negative, I appreciate the feedback and I'll take that into account or something. And you'd be surprised how many people write back. One guy was right back, sorry if I came a bit too harsh. I was just really tired and I shouldn't have written that. And thanks for your, and then suddenly it's like turning the bully into your best friend idea, except online, so, which I consider that I'm like, level up.
No, you're absolutely right. Often enough, it's someone who's just like not how to communicate their feelings about something, and it could come out harshly, but often enough they are trying to help, or they think they're trying to help.
If they care about my story enough to rant about it, and I'm inspiring emotion, that's better than somebody who's like, oh, this is too boring to do anything, goodbye. So
yeah. And then as you get closer to the end of this particular series of Shieldwall Academy, are you finding that it's becoming more difficult to write the 6th book than it might have been to write the 2nd, 3rd, 4th? And sort of how do you feel?
Tons more.
Yeah.
I'm horrible because I love LitRPG. I love all the tropes. So I did like the Stone Soup, I was like, oh, let's throw pets in. Oh, let's throw ancient mysteries. Oh, let's throw a bunch of leveling. Oh, let's put a whole bunch of numbers in, right?
Yeah.
And by the 6th book, I'm like, oh, crap, what did I do?
Yeah, exactly. I have to remember all these things that happened.
So I actually really love, for any authors out there in my position, Google has, depending on whether you're totally anti-AI or not, but they have this thing called Notebook LM, and it'll let you stick your books up there. And then I go to it and I say, what was the name of that spell teacher back in the 2nd book that did this and this? And it'll tell me, and I'll say, were there any physical descriptions about her? Because I can't remember. And it'll be like, yeah. And it pulls it out, and it has a little footnote button. You click on it, and it opens the section in the book about the mage Warwick or whoever it was, right? And there you can see, oh, she had blue eyes. That's right. Because, I'm past 1 million words at this point. By the time I finish this book, it'll be. So I do have a Bible or a document that I keep
Yeah.
stuff in. I have multiple spreadsheets, and it still doesn't matter. I was just editing, and somebody's talking about her father, and I realized, wait, that's her uncle, not her father. So I'm
Yeah.
quickly control Fing all the fathers in that chapter and changing them to uncles. So yeah.
No, it's and honestly, I think that's not even just like a LitRPG specific thing, but LitRPG makes it so much more difficult because beyond just the descriptions, you have to worry about all the different skills and abilities and stats and classes and whatever you have plugged into your world to sort of make it what it is, right?
Well, that's why I really like having the Railroad and Patreon community that I can. So, like I said, hey, I'm at the climactic point of book 6. Are there any plots that in the past 6 books that you really want to see? Or I'm wrapping up the family arc. Is there any answers that these brothers want to know about the past and about their family? Because I teased a whole bunch of mystery over the books. Because I'm wrapping it up right now. Someone's like, oh, make sure, I want to know this about, this family member.
Sure.
Not to get spoilers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really cool is if you have somebody like a sounding board who these people have been reading your books for the 4 years you've been writing them, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a way to communicate with your Amazon readers. And I did make a Facebook group, but it never really went anywhere. My books aren't quite at the level where I have this huge online following. So I have my 5 or 6 people that comment on every chapter on Royal Road and 3 or 4 over on Patreon. And, I think I've got just under 3,000 followers on Royal Road.
Wow. Honestly, that's remarkable. That's fantastic.
But I'm surprised the hard part about Royal Road is once you stub it, which is where because with Kindle Unlimited, you can't leave it up on Royal Road. Once you put in Kindle Unlimited, they require that it's nowhere else, even for free. And so that's stubbing. When I take that off, then people who are Royal Road find my book, then suddenly it's like, I don't want to start at book 2, Yeah. But some of them go, let me go get it on Kindle Unlimited, and then I'll come back to book 2.
Yeah.
So I have seen my following, because I was somewhere in the 3,000s, and then as I started stubbing, you lose a couple every week or so.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's staying this steady is still great. I love that I still have people commenting here on book 6.
Yeah,
honestly, I have some hardcore followers. So wait, I don't think that he would have done that. Or wait, did you remember this? And they'll catch I thought it was +4, not +5 on some number. And I'm like, oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
Let me go fix that.
Your beta readers just embedded in the platform. Do you do you enjoy, so obviously you're mentioning things like losing followers or how many you're getting on Royal Road versus Patreon and stuff. Do you enjoy the business side of things, or do you sort of feel like you have to do it because you're a self-published author? Have you thought about sort of going to one of the publishers and being like, hey, do all this, take this away from me, and then sort of just let me just do the writing thing? Could you see yourself giving away that control?
I would probably, as far as I don't like the advertising stuff, trying to figure out Amazon ads and Facebook ads. It feels like they change every 2 months.
Yeah.
And with the advent of AI, Meta's putting AI into their Facebook ads, and then it just changes like crazy. So it's almost like a full-time job, a full-time skill that's almost as, as separate, writing level, whatever, advertising level, whatever, So that's probably the thing I would want to farm out as much as possible. Interacting with readers, that I love that. I like writing and interacting with readers are my top. Editing, at this point, I could probably make a decent living as a professional editor just because I'm self-taught and do it myself and have figured out a method that works pretty well. Because I'm a cheapskate. There's no way with a 220,000 word book, I was going to drop 6,000 or 3,000 on somebody to edit my stuff. So I have a multi-threaded thing, and I, go over it well enough that my stuff's pretty clean by the time it makes it to market. And with the help of my beta reader, I have beta readers, I have a couple of early readers, I have ARC reading team, I've got Royal Road, and I got Patreon, and then Pro Writing Aid and Google Docs check and Word check, and then I run it through each chapter through Chat and Claude. And I know what each of those doesn't catch and which each of those does catch. So
yeah, honestly, so you have a process that sort of mimics a lot of that editing, which is fantastic. And to your point, you have your own editing and all the beta readers and all those. So I think that's work. And we're at the point so I am not fully on board with AI, but like the notebook LLM I'd heard of, but I've never used it before. That seems like a good use of AI to me, because it's a
Oh,
good use of
totally.
like finding all the things. Because to your point, if you have a million words of stuff to go and reread that every single time you want to start the new book, it would just be too difficult. But sorry, that's a whole other tangent. So getting
Yes.
back to you a little bit more. So one, have you sort of introduced your books to your kids? Are they reading it? Are they enthused at all by reading, or are they sort of like,
So
hey mom,
I have
leave
a
us alone?
17-year-old son who reads right along and is wondering when the next chapter is. So he loves it.
Fantastic.
And this, to look at your marketing, it turns out the preteen teenage crowd loves my books, but I can't figure out how to market to them, because it's kind of like you got to either go through the parents, or you got to go, I don't know, Discord, YouTube somehow to get to them. They're not on Facebook. They're not on Amazon, that crowd. At some point, I would like to do Instagram, TikTok. I have an Instagram that I haven't updated in forever. I'm not very good at that side of it. That's something of the business I would totally farm out. Update my website, please, which is horribly out of date, and my Instagram. Yeah. But I had this fun incident, because I mentioned to my family, once I've sold it to LitRPG readers, then I'll let my family know so they don't mess up my also bots over on Amazon.
Sure.
But my husband's brother's family, they've got 4 boys. And he said, oh, P.S., we just really love your books. And I was like, oh, you guys have read them? He says, yeah, we took the audiobook. I got the audiobook on Audible. And we listened to it on our summer road trip. And we listened to all of them. The kids loved them. And then now they made me go get on your Royal Road and start reading a chapter every night before they went to bed. Wow. So that was pretty fun. And then that was on one side of the family. The other side of the family, I had a sister, all her kids read the book, and one of the sons didn't know about it, and he found out about it. He's like, nobody told me Aunt Misty wrote a book. And then he binge read all 4 books, which we're talking like, a stack. Yeah. And he's like, is that all there is? And I'm like, hey, that's like 4 years of work, buddy, or 3 years of work.
Yeah, exactly.
In like 2 weeks. So his mom just told me that he's wondering if he can be added to my Google Doc as a beta reader, because he's impatient to read the rest of the next book.
Hey, that's a glowing endorsement. That's fantastic.
I know. He's about 13, 14, so.
Yeah. And I think I was talking to someone about the idea that, like, they talk about how boys aren't reading anymore. And I say all the time, that just simply isn't true. I think they're not reading maybe the traditional books that we see in, like, bookstores and stuff. But if we look at readership for LitRPG, it's very easy to notice that, like, boys are reading. It is not as much anymore, but for a while, it was primarily boys and men reading LitRPG, and thankfully that sort of shifted, and we have a lot more equilibrium now. But it definitely isn't the case where boys aren't reading, because you see that.
Well, there's some great stories. I've heard some from other authors getting input. They're like, I gave my kid your book, and he hasn't been reading for a while, and he read it and he loved it, and now he wants more. So
yeah,
I think they love gaming. They love quantifying their progress. Like, I mean, when all of us who love LitRPG, we wish we had healing potions, and we wish we could just like use a little grid to build the house kind of thing.
Sure.
And that we could quantify. Like, I go to the gym, do I measure my biceps or something? Like, how do I know how much I've progressed? Okay, now I can lift this much weight, and now I can add more and lift this much. I mean, we just love that progression. And so quantifying, gaming, all that goes together.
Oh, absolutely. So sort of on that trend then, so I've asked you to bring forward some hidden gems. I'm wondering if you might be willing to sort of shout out some stories, let people know sort of the sort of stuff that you like, and then just I'll add a little image in post editing afterwards of the cover. So if you can maybe send it to me afterwards in an email, just so I have them all. That way I'll be able to just add them in the video.
Sure. So the first ones that always come to mind are the whole survival ones, and whether it's survival in a wilderness kind of thing, or survival because suddenly goblins start appearing because of an apocalypse and start attacking you. So that's probably the theme for most of mine.
Sure.
One I just met in person at the convention, Justin Marks. He has a series At the End of the World, and he was telling me he did a video with you, so I don't have to show him.
I know Justin very well. Yeah,
because he'll be on a video with you. But I just read his first book in his new series, which was really fun. So if you're into like quantifying and building at a really fast pace and seeing how far you've gone, both of his series are pretty good. And similar to that, there's this one called 8. And it's, I wrote down his name because I don't know the author at all. Samar Rabadi.
Mhm.
And it's a kid, and it's also the, like, you know, you got to sharpen a stick and make a fire and that kind of stuff, but then with magic added in. And I really enjoyed that one. That one's been out for a while. And one of my favorite completed series is an Australian series. There aren't too many of those. Is Alpha Physics by Alex Kozlowski. That was really fun, right from the beginning. And on a side, since I kind of have a soft spot for how hard Australia is to survive with all of their things, is KT Hanna's Town Under. So instead of Down Under, Town Under. It's a spinoff of Tao Wong's System Apocalypse series, but she does the Australian version.
Yeah, they updated the covers recently on those. I want to say like 6 months ago, and they look fantastic.
So she just does an amazing job. One, with having a mom with kids, so that always speaks to me. Which we don't have a ton of that demographic in our readership yet. I think it's growing. And then what she does with the Australian monsters mutating with mana is just hilarious. I mean, gross and scary and hilarious. So yeah, that's pretty good. And my last one was First Necromancer by Cold Fang 89. But that was more new, so people have probably heard of that. But that's very in line with my post-apoc stuff, you know. Get a little bit of a warning, the system's coming, grab your friends, they don't quite believe you. You quickly, like, build out your little farm area, build a wall. Some dungeon spawns nearby and it's sending waves of stuff at you. And can you survive? And can all of you level up fast enough, you know? And he's like raising up the dead monsters, and you can only have so many. They go down because they're kind of weak, but then you get some stronger, you know, and it's a great escalation, because I like those where, like, because most of the best series, they start with like 1v1, right? And then it's like a 3v3, and then you got group v group, then you got town v town. And the Necromancer skill is perfect for that, right?
Yeah.
So you can have two, you know, risen minions, and eventually you got armies of minions, which he does. And he did really well with the later books with the armies versus armies. I thought he did a great job. I enjoyed that.
No, that's actually in the sale. Actually, most of the authors you mentioned are in the sale, which is fantastic. I think that's really cool. So they'll probably really enjoy being called out and shouted out. So thank you for doing
awesome.
that. Awesome. Do you sort of gravitate? So a lot of the ones you mentioned are more that like apocalypse dystopian sort of like, you start really small, slowly get like bigger and bigger fights. Is that the sort of story that you gravitate to the most, do you find?
I actually pretty much love every lit RPG. The ones I don't actually read too much are sci-fi ones. So I don't like if it's a spaceshipy system station, that kind of thing. Dungeon cores, I liked a lot of the beginning ones. I'm not super, but if it's everything else, I'm pretty much a very eclectic reader. I just go to the LitRPG top selling new releases. And anything, I'm much more likely to read a book 1 than a book 17 of something. I tend to fall out of series. You know, the big series, I've probably read the first 1 to 4 books of almost every. I used to be able to say almost every series out there. The last couple of years, you can't keep up. But
absolutely.
2 years ago, I could say I'd read a book in probably almost 99% of lit RPG books.
Wow.
I love reading. So, and I read fast. So, and that's what's cool about our genre is the authors love the reading. They love gaming. They love progressing. They love telling good stories. So on that, and again, you've mentioned it a couple times, and I want to make sure I spend some time. So you're the first person I've talked to after LitRPG Con. So obviously that just happened. Do you mind just talking about that a little bit? How was the experience for you? I didn't go, reluctantly, again, little baby at home, but I didn't go. So you got to meet some awesome authors. Did you enjoy your time? Were you there the whole weekend? How did it go? Oh, it was great. I have this fan who's like a mod over on one of the LitRPG forums. Shout out to BJ Wood and his family. He's like, "Are you going to the conference?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm becoming more and more of a hermit introvert, as I don't know. And I'm like, there's been so many family activities. I just could the people just go away for a while, right? I'm sure plenty of us authors feel that way. But I'm like, this is the first con. And he's like, you should go. It'll be fun. It's all your people. So I was like, okay, I'll think about it. So then I decided to go at the last minute, too late to sign up to be on any of the panels, which I was fine with to start. And 3 weeks before, he's like, hey, did you decide to go? And I said, yeah, I got tickets. He's like, good, because I'll buy your paperback and bring it so you can sign it. And I was like, oh, I get to sign my first autograph at a convention. So he made my day, and he brought his wife and his best friend Kyle and his son. So I got to meet them. So that was kind of a highlight. And then all these people like you know, I've texted you or messaged you or I've seen your posts, you know, because I've just been around the genre and the people for that long. But everybody's like this little tiny, you know, picture that you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So seeing them face to face, you know, saying hi. Everybody looks down at each other's tags. Oh, you're Zaugg. And I'm like, oh, you're Sour Patch Hero. Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. So that was fun.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another thing, right? Because it's beyond just the avatar or the little image. Everyone has these pen names that are so obscure within LitRPG. So it's like, oh, now I can actually know your actual name as well.
Yeah. Like I met Hunter Mythos, and like I got started reading, speaking of apocalyptic stuff, you know, Dave Wilmer's stuff was some of the first stuff I read, his Sun Shadow series. I love those. And the 10 Realms, you know, I loved those. And Michael Chatfield was there. So I was like, nice to see you again, you know, because I'd met him at a previous convention. So that was really great.
Yeah.
And I mean, what other convention are they going to go from 2 to 6 p.m. and the only activity is playing games in the big room? Like that just tells you who's there. And I was like, oh, I got to go check it out. And there we are in the big, because, you know, they had a big conference room and a couple small ones for the different panels. And in the big one, seriously, there's like, I don't know, 40, 50 tables, and they're all full and everybody's playing games.
Yeah. And they're playing games with their authors, their author
kids.
Friends, or like their authors that they've been reading their books of. And no, it looked really, really cool. And absolutely, it's like
my narrator was there. Shout out to J.S. Arquin. He was there, and that was fun. So yeah, it's great. And everybody's fans of the thing. I mentioned one of the plot lines I was going to push over to like the follow-up trilogy for the series. Like, what? You can't do that. I was like, you're just the narrator. Why do you care about this story? He's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, okay, I will promise to plan out that trilogy and not leave that hanging. So everybody cares. We're all readers first and enjoy the stories. So that's
awesome. Yeah. So that's the narrator for the Shieldwall Academy.
Yeah, J.S. Arquin. He also does Path of Ascension is probably his most famous one, but he's doing a ton of LitRPG now. He does like some for Troy Osgood and names fail me, a bunch of others.
No, that's fair, honestly. And you can tell that you actually like read a lot of the books, which is fantastic. And I'm very similar to you, where like there was a period of time where I was reading very prolifically, but then it sort of became similar to you. You read the first book, but you don't extend beyond the first book sometimes, because it's just like there's so many series, and some of these series, like He Who Fights with Monsters and stuff, I think we're at book 12. I can't only read that book. I need to sort of like make sure I'm looking at different types of books as well, despite enjoying the first few books of that series quite a bit.
Well, that's where my forgetting thing comes in. Yeah. Because I said earlier, I've done a lot of schooling, and I had to memorize everything and keep it in my head. And so for me, reading, my brain's like, oh, we don't have to remember any of this. There's no memorization required. And so I just read and enjoy and tend to forget. So I'm like, wait, remind me. And so I really enjoy the authors, and I do this in my books, where they have a story so far right at the beginning, you know, which you can skip over if you remember, or if you're binge reading it later. But when it's been 4 months or 2 months or whatever since I read the last one, I've probably read 30 other books in that time. I don't remember which one yours is. So so I'm much more likely to read the later ones when they have one of those. Otherwise, it takes me too long to go, like, wait, who's this guy? And who's this girl? So. Yeah,
but on the other side of that, so I agree with you. We absolutely need them. But as an author, do you find that to be sometimes the most difficult thing you could possibly write? I find it can be very difficult to compartmentalize stories and stories.
We are well known
for little paragraph.
We're well known for sucking at blurbs and summaries. Like, I can tell a story, and even in conversation, I will sit and tell a story, and I've got it out in my head just with friends. Like, this happened, and then you need to know this because that's important for this and this. And then I find myself droning on too long, and I'm like, oh, gotta wrap it up. Oh, and the point is, you know, and I summarize, but yeah. We're not that good at that. I
It's
did
hard
write,
to
like
do.
the very first one of those stories so far as I wrote was way, way, way too long. So I gave
Yeah.
it to my husband. I said, cut out what I don't need, stuff like that. That's another value you can try using a AI stuff for is, can you summarize this and keep the important points, or cut out what's not necessary? It's pretty helpful with blurb type writing, that stuff, summaries and things.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so just as we get close to the end, I want to make sure that I do two last things. The first is sort of like it's not a game, but it's sort of just like, again, getting a sense of sort of who you are. So it's like a would you rather. So I've asked the same thing of a couple different people. I probably should change the questions, but right now I'm being lazy. So would you rather write a romance story or historical fiction?
Oh, that's a hard one. Can I change the history? Can it be revisionist history?
Ooh, I don't know. You know what? Yes, it can be revisionist.
Because then that's what I'd probably do. There's a guy, is it Turtle Dove? Horrible with author names. There's a guy that I grew up reading that, like, he would change World War II, if the Nazis did this instead, kind of thing. And he wrote, I think it was Turtle Dove. Anyway, I would do that. I have played with I do put some, I wouldn't mind putting some romance in the book. I'd have a hard time writing just the romance.
Sure.
I would do a romantasy.
Okay, yeah.
Well, if that counts as romance, I would do that, because then I get to do fantasy and romance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, the
I
romance.
didn't answer your question. Sorry.
No, it did. It did. Well, you sort of you did choose.
I
both.
straddled the fence.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I want to do both. This one might be easier then. Would you prefer to do an isekai portal fantasy or a VR story?
Oh, isekai.
Yeah, feels like that's the way.
Yeah,
that most
VR
people
is so passe now.
Yeah.
That was hot way a long time ago. It's been at least like 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Things move quickly nowadays. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think you mentioned it beforehand. So as an author, or as a person in the world, you're getting more introverted. You're like, people get away from me. Let me just spend time with my kids and my husband, sort of thing, or no one. Would you prefer to live on an island in this isolated scenario? Or would you prefer to live on a in the woods?
Oh. The woods has more resources, but the island is warmer, and I am definitely I like the heat. I would be like a lizard or a cat sitting in the window soaking up the sun kind of person. So practically, I'd say the forest, but enjoying the day-to-day life, I love the beach.
Sure.
So again, I'm not going to answer your question.
That's okay. Last one then. So I think you had mentioned again a little bit, but in your stories, whether it's now or in the future, would you prefer to write a war scene or a chase scene?
Oh, definitely a war scene. I've done martial arts since I was a teenager. So that's one of my loves. And one of my passions is to teach self-defense to women and girls, to
awesome.
prevent the attacks versus trying to learn how to recover and survive afterwards. So the joke is that I can beat characters up and then I can fix them up. So with my black belt and my MD, I can beat them up and fix them up is kind of what I do. So I would love the war scenes anytime. Chase scenes, I'm not so good with the whole speed and stealth and evading. I mean, I can write it, but I don't love it. Like, I love fight scenes.
Yeah. So I'm going to get you to do two last things. So first is, you've mentioned it a few times, so I want to make sure you have an opportunity to mention to talk about it. So as you finish off Shieldwall Academy, you're looking to go, and it sounds as though your next series that you want to write is a spin-off to that. Can you just speak to sort of like your plans for the future from a writing perspective?
So I do have a follow-up trilogy because I have these plot points that I didn't have time to address well, but I'm going to take a break and do a completely new series.
Okay.
After 4 years, my brain's like, squirrel, looking at all the new ideas. So my idea right now, of course, is something OP, something apocalyptic, system type apocalyptic, but, with some new spin on it, that would be fun. So my idea right now is I'm going to write 3 or 4 chapters in a handful of different ideas and send them off to my Royal Road and Patreon people and see which one they like. So they're excited and waiting to help me figure it out. I like to involve the readers. I mean, if I were just writing for myself, I'd write whatever I want and not expect it to sell. But, I am also a business person and I write for an audience. Like, I'm performing essentially, but just on the page instead of on the stage.
That's actually really one smart, but also a really good use of your Patreon to be able to like do market research based off what they actually want to be reading, right?
Well, and I asked them, I said, would you like, they said, oh yeah, give us 2. But then one of them says, no, don't give me 4 stories that are amazing and I have to decide which one's going to die and which one you're going to actually do. And I was like, okay, I can see that too. Well, don't read them then.
Yeah, exactly. Don't participate in the poll.
It's like, I don't want to read something I really like and have multiple choices and some of them will never get written. I was like, that's my brain, all ideas that'll never get written.
No, I love that. If I could write that prolifically, that I could write effectively 16 chapters so I could give them all the options, I would do the exact same thing. But I'm too slow. That alone would take me 2 months just to do that.
Well, I'm planning to take a break. So I'm going to pause my Patreon, pause my Royal Road for a few months. And I might try to do some of the like whole Instagram-y, TikTok, I'm going to try and write a prequel that I can give away for free, like a newsletter builder, all of that kind of stuff that just takes a backseat when because that is the downside to Royal Road Patreon is you're on a hamster wheel. Like you take a week off and you're behind 3 chapters or however many you're doing a week. Christmas comes, you get sick, whatever. And so it's hard to keep going and running as fast as you can without a break. So
yeah, and honestly, if we had, as I do more of these things, there's so much we could talk about because I fully agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I don't like Royal Road as much. Even when I did do it, I blasted out all my chapters that I'd written for an entire story, and I just stopped. And I recognize that's not what you're supposed to do at all. But to me, it was just like, here's the story. I want you guys to provide feedback. I want to be able to see that sort of thing. But it's not conducive to creating an actual community and all that good stuff. So I fully agree with you that you need to.
Yeah, I had book 1 completely written. I wrote book 1. It was completely written before I went on Royal Road, but I dribbled my chapters out a little more. I think I did dump about 20 or 30 in the first couple of weeks. And then I did 3 a week was my routine. And I, right from the get-go, I had Patreon with 20 plus chapters ahead from day 1. So that if people wanted to support this series, they liked it, wanted it to go into audio, they could do it immediately. Because, people don't come back to stuff. They're like, oh, I'll do it right now. Oh, it's not there? You lost them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You've lost them. Okay, so let me finish off. Let's finish off with you. One last time, talk about your book, if possible, your series. Let us know what it's going to be on sale for the sale itself. And then, just let people know one last time what it's about so that they can go and check it out.
So Shieldwell Academy is, of course, an orphan with nothing who then lives in a corrupt empire. He has a forbidden magic and he gets conscripted to the Mage Academy. And, the eventual goal is to become OP and rip that corrupted empire off its throne and replace it with something better. And along the way, he gets a found family with a crew, a team of great people who are, friends and family, some great mentors. And there's lots of tamed pets that grow into powerhouses that fight alongside him. So, and if there's a trope in there that isn't in LitRPG, I would be surprised. So if you like lots of tropes, I got complaints. They're like, she just crammed every trope into that series, but I just love the stories. So, and book 6 is going to be the finale of the big war arc. And then with a few trailing leads that I'll have to add on later. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Misty. I appreciate talking with you. And honestly, your journey is crazy. It's amazing, and it goes lots of different places. I found out you're an MD, you're a martial artist, you're a writer, you're a mom of 6, you're everything and everything, which is fantastic.
Well, as a kid, I would read the little author bios at the back, and I would just be, wow, these people have done so much cool stuff. They're like a skydiver, and they're like a Marine, and they're, this and this and this. And then I was like, I think I'm actually close to writing a similar bio at this point in my life. 53, and now I can sound cool on the list, right?
Exactly.
So I become my heroes. I read Heinlein and, or Andre Norton and all those great writers back in the day. And it's kind of really cool to feel like I'm joining the ranks with them.
Yeah.
Giving back. Like I loved those books when I was growing up, and then have my little nephew come up and go, I didn't know you could write books like that. Are you sure you wrote that, Aunt Misty? And so then I've got kids reading my stuff, and loving it like I did as a kid. So it's
Yeah.
great. I love it. Best job ever.
From August 22nd to 24th, I'll be running a massive LitRPG sale. That sale will include at least 200 free ebooks, all within the LitRPG and progression fantasy genre. I'd like to thank everyone for checking out the site, checking out the sale, sharing it where you can, and an especially big thank you to all the authors and publishers who have given me their blessing to host this site. I really do appreciate it. Come grab some free books.